since I didn't record a vlog this last weekend, I thought I might as well do like an update about what I'm learning in class. And I realized sitting in class today that I really can't give you a really concise thing of what I'm learning. I can talk about what we're currently learning, which is we're learning about Asia, Southeast Asia, specifically India, and its rise to power. And we sat through 2 panels today. One was at the Johns Hopkins SAIS, or SAIS as they were saying it, but I thought that was so pretentious to be like, oh, what's SAIS? Talking about this thing that they published about Asia, and that was very educational. Boring, but educational. Mostly because the speakers were all old. They were all over the age of 50. Well, except for one. He looked like he was like 40. But it was just like old people talking, and there were there's only one person who was Indian on the panel, and he like didn't really say very much, so that wasn't very useful. But then we went to another panel, and there were only 3 speakers, and they were all Indian, and they all had like an inside perspective, which was really fascinating. And there's one speaker in particular that I really liked, and I think the reason why is probably because he spoke with passion, and all the others were just speaking like academics, which can be boring. And what struck me most about India is that people are like, oh, it's just first rising now, and oh my goodness, it's gonna be a problem for the United States, but they're not nearly as worried about it as they are with China, mostly because India is also a democracy, and so we're like, well, because we have similar governments, we're going to get along, which is true. Historically, for the most part, we've gotten along. And it's just really interesting because you look back in history, and India was a really great power. People wanted to go there to get spices, and they wanted to go there to get textiles, and people wanted to go there just because it was so different than what Western Europe was like at the time. It's not a simple society, and it's not a simple topic to talk about. It defies simplicity. India is both a very positive story of growth, and it's also one of extreme poverty, because you have the people who are making the money, but you also have the people who are still living in slums and who are still very rural, and they're not able to make nearly as much money as some of the other people are. Like, there are people who are being very, very educated, except for the education that they're getting isn't necessarily quality. Not always, that's not completely true, but that's part of it. And India is providing so many goods and services to the world, and they're a major export, and they are an import as well. It's not equal all across the board, which is usually the case in every country. There's no such thing as equilibrium. You can just hope for it. And what's really great, though, is that they are willing to work and cooperate with the United States and all other powers in the area to try and keep it stable. I think they're not too worried about Pakistan anymore, though everything Pakistan does has to do with India. Well, for the most part, not anymore. People say that India is not diverse, but they're not looking at it in the right way. It's more diverse in Europe than Europe, mostly because all of the languages. There are 16 official languages in India, and just moving from state to state within India, you will have a totally different language with a totally different script and with a totally different way of learning it. And so basically India, language-wise, is very diverse. Also, it's really religiously diverse because you have a lot of Christians, you have a lot of you have Muslims, you have Sikhs, you have Hindus. While Hindus do make up 80% of the population, there are lots and lots of other religions that are living and coexisting very, very peacefully with one another in India, which everybody thinks India, oh, Hindu, but that's not necessarily true. And they're incredibly multicultural because of the trade that has just been going on throughout India's history. India has always been a really big trade port in the Eastern world, starting with the Silk Road, and it goes on to East India Trading Company being conquered by first having Portugal come in, and then England, the British Empire. The British made sure, created a systematic stripping of resources from India and made it very, very difficult for India to compete in the British market. They put tariffs on British goods, but they in England, but they didn't put tariffs on English goods in India. So it made it cheaper to buy British goods instead of Indian goods in India, which I don't think I said that correctly, but that's what I'm trying to say. And they made sure that it was always going to be unequal and that the Brits will have the majority of the power. When India was finally able to get off of that, they did shake off the Brits and okay, now they're independent, and then there was partition with Pakistan, which I guess people didn't like. I don't know. I thought when we were learning about Pakistan, they said that they did originally wanted to keep one country, but then realized that a lot of the Muslims in India were like, you know what, I don't think we're going to be able to live here. I don't know, that's kind of like, I guess what got me thinking most about this is because you have the two sides of this story, and I'm sure there are even more sides than what I've heard, because I'm not an expert on India or Pakistan. Like, I don't claim to be at all. I don't claim to be an expert on anything, actually. You have the Pakistani story of what happened, and you have the Indian story. And the Indian story happens to be the one that prevails, and I think that's because they are the bigger country, like landmass-wise, as well, and they are also economically better off than Pakistan. And Pakistan just has its own mixed bag of troubles. That's a totally different topic. That video will be very long, and I can't make it because I don't know nearly as much about Pakistan as I would like to. Even though we just spent a week on it, I still don't know very much. Anyway, back to India. India has always been a place for traders. It's always been a place for scholars. The places that had the most intellect and the most richness of culture and diversity, where they had the Arabs were the ones who had some of the first universities, and they were scholars and they taught everybody. Those societies are the ones that are now in most turmoil, and I'm wondering if it's because the West meddled in it, which is not bad because we learned a lot from them, but it's like, what did we do to cause such problems? What's even better is that the fact that India has gone through, and these societies in general have gone through such hard times, and they've come out and they have such a sense of self. And what the speaker, this particular speaker, said that really rang true for me, that I thought was really interesting, was, you know who you are because of what you've gone through. Because you've gone through because you've gone through problems, and because you've had to persevere, you know who you are. And I found that interesting, and I feel like that's very true. I just thought I wanted to talk about that because it's very interesting, and I think that it's something that people should realize. There are other countries besides China that are economic powers. People don't talk about India very much. People don't talk about Brazil very much. If you don't think they talk about India, they don't talk about Brazil at all compared to that, which I don't think is very smart. I think we need to focus on Brazil, but that's a different topic altogether. That's just what I wanted to talk about today. Thought it would be of interest to some people. I might be misinformed. I might not have all the facts, which is definitely true because I'm American. I'm outside of India. My lens is not the same. And Andrew's staring at me, so it's making me very self-conscious right now. So, I'm going to end this video. Alright, cool. See you on Sunday.